Good morning, Vaqueros, and welcome to our last newscast of the semester. Today's Monday, May 5th, and it's currently 86 degrees. We're coming to you from our Edinburgh studio. I'm Jan Trejo.
And I'm Victoria Gonzalez.
And this is
Vaquero News.
Campus news,
events, games,
and activities
all in one place.
This is Vaquero Radio,
the Val Student Station.
Monday and Wednesday at 11 a.m.
Vaquero Radio,
where
your story begins.
Donald Trump has already been in office for 100 days. Here's Victoria Gonzalez with more.
Every single day of my administration will continue to live by the motto, promises made, and you've seen it before, promises kept.
Last Tuesday marked Donald Trump's first 100th day of his second presidency, but his hovering 39% to 41% approval rating is the lowest any newly elected president has seen in at least 7 decades. In his 100-day rally last Tuesday at Macomb Community College in Warren, Michigan, the president said this is the most successful first 100 days of any administration in the history of our country, later adding, "We've just gotten started, you haven't seen anything yet." Throughout Trump's presidential campaign journey, he promised Americans many things, but some of those promises have fallen short. Professor for the UTRGV Department of Political Science, Nicholas Kiersey, discussed the unprecedented and radical nature of Trump's early presidency, noting his administration is openly pursuing major changes under the claim of a public mandate. While some on the left call this fascism, Kiersey is skeptical of that label, pointing out inconsistencies, such as Democratic leaders using the term during campaigns, but then returning to business as usual after Trump's win. Instead of fascism, he sees Trump's actions as part of a broader, long-standing shift in American politics toward unitary executive theory, which is the idea the president can act unilaterally in emergencies without congressional approval. According to Kiersey, this trend has been growing since Franklin D. Roosevelt's presidency and accelerated after 9/11, with Congress giving broad powers to the executive and never reclaiming them. He added Trump isn't seizing power so much as using authority Congress already surrendered. While his actions may feel authoritarian, they're legally grounded in this unchecked executive power. But Kiersey also doubts the seriousness of Democratic resistance, seeing it more as political fundraising than meaningful opposition.
What Bernie Sanders and AOC are doing, going around the country, filling a stadium with 30,000 people is a big deal, especially, and they're doing that in like really rural parts of America where you'd think that there were just, according to the cliche, this is where Trump's heartland support is to be found. So, I think that's where we've got to be looking if we're seriously interested in what all is kind of coming out of this moment as resistance.
The American Farm Bureau Federation reported the combination of inflation and highly pathogenic avian influenza has caused egg prices to rise more than 350% per dozen compared to this time last year. The daily national average for a dozen large eggs was $8.15 on March 4th. An article by the Economic Times wrote the U.S. stock market experienced a significant decline across major indices, with Dow Jones Industrial Average decreasing by over 900 points, NASDAQ Composite Index fell by over 500 points, and S&P 500 Index dropped by over 100 points. Assistant professor for the UTRGV Department of Political Science, Alvaro Corral, said the most significant policy under Trump has been the imposition of tariffs, which has shaken markets and hurt his approval rating. Corral said Americans who are concerned both as consumers who are facing rising costs and as workers who see negative impacts on the stock market and retirement savings. The unpredictability of Trump's tariff decisions adds to the instability and public concern.
There's been a sort of whiplash around are tariffs on, are tariffs off, just sort of a back and forth of imposing tariffs, negotiations, delaying tariffs, then reimposing them. And so that's just inserted an incredible degree of uncertainty in the market, which is what investors really don't like. And so that's just really led to, I think, an unprecedented sort of tailspin of economic performance and long-term projections for the health of the US economy and the global economy.
With Trump's new 25% auto tariffs, an article by USA Today wrote, Wedbush security analyst Daniel Ives estimates the president could push the average car price from $5,000 to $10,000, depending on the make and model. The National Corn Growers Association reported U.S. soybeans and corn are prime targets for Trump's tariffs with China. The combined soybean and corn contribution to total economic output could be expected to drop $4.9 billion annually under China removing existing waivers on soybeans and corn, or $7.9 billion annually under China implementing 60% tariffs on soybean and corn. An article by the New Republic wrote Trump stated he made 200 trade deals with foreign leaders during his 90-day pause on his reciprocal tariff policy, but refused to answer who those deals were with. According to Kiersey, Trump's efforts to restructure global trade through unilateral tariffs represent a shift away from America's role as the world's economic hegemon. Since World War II, the U.S. has been the global referee, maintaining a system of trade norms and standards that benefited its own economy, especially through the demand for the U.S. dollar. However, he added Trump has signaled a withdrawal from this responsibility, arguing the U.S. can no longer afford to oversee global trade and should let rising economies, such as the BRICS nations, which include Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, to take over. Kiersey argued this shift has destabilized the markets, with corporations and global investors pushing back. The U.S. government found itself having to offer higher interest rates on Treasury bonds due to reduced demand, signaling a lack of global confidence in U.S. economic policies. He said this has led to an increased supply of U.S. dollars, implying a lack of demand and weakening of the currency. Kiersey said the resistance to Trump's economic policies has come from global capitalism itself. Investors worldwide, including countries such as China and Japan, have made it clear Trump's approach isn't sustainable, underscoring capitalism's market forces are pushing back against his policies.
This isn't going to work. We're not investing in your economy anymore. It's too unpredictable. You're acting weird right now. We're getting out. We'll maybe come back in the future if you get it back together. But right now we're out, right? You need to show consistency. You need to show predictability for us to think you're worth investing in. The thing that seems to have so far been most successful in constraining that agenda has not been the courts. It's been the markets. The markets have punished Trump.
According to CNN reports, at least 121,000 federal workers have been laid off or targeted for layoffs in the 3 months since Trump's second term began. An article by MLive wrote officials are preparing for a possible $500 billion decline in collected tax revenue this year due to Trump's efforts to reduce staff at the Internal Revenue Service. Corral explained recent Schedule F changes have led to the mass firings of nonpartisan federal workers, especially in D.C., based on Trump's political alignment. This shift, driven by the Department of Government Efficiency, is unprecedented and could harm U.S. governance and global influence, particularly through agencies such as the United States Agency for Internal Development.
That means that America's footprint abroad in these areas of public health and security have essentially disappeared, right? And so America abroad just essentially means our military. And even just limiting myself to talking about the major changes in terms of US aid and international development aid, those changes, I think, have probably been met with the most controversy and made the most headlines because, again, it's really shifting America's footprint abroad and how other countries view us in that regard.
The Center for American Progress reported under the Trump administration, DOGE has put everyone with a social security number at risk of their information being misused, ripped off, or manipulated for political gain. The report said in April the SSD is holding the banking details of more than 67 million seniors, disabled people, and other beneficiaries. DOGE has also falsely marked more than 10 million people dead since March, including many seniors who are alive. Kiersey said Congress has the power to check the president, but hasn't used it because Democrats avoided limiting executive power when their own party held the White House. Now, with Trump in office, the courts have issued some temporary blocks, but real limits are lacking. He sees this as a long-term shift toward executive power and doubts Democrats are serious about resisting it. The 2026 midterms will be the real test.
The executive branch is only doing what they're allowed to do under current law. It's very hard to say that what Trump is doing is illegal. The one or two areas where he's had pushback are on these mass deportations and especially those sorts of issues dealing with freedom of speech around Israel and Gaza.
The Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health reported the Trump administration froze $2.2 billion in grants and $60 million in contracts after the university argued the infringement on constitutional and independent rights when Trump tried to take over admissions, faculty hiring, and curriculum. Corral described the Trump administration's broad attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, especially in higher education in both public and private universities, as having faced pressure, including threats to withhold federal funding to eliminate DEI initiatives. The administration also redefines equal opportunity, moving away from affirmative actions intended to address historical injustices.
That's why, the federal government really instituted these programs in the 60s and 70s, right, to diversify their federal workforce so that there's an understanding that if the government is trying to deliver goods and services to a very diverse American public, maybe it makes sense for government bureaucrats to reflect America's diversity as well. Federal government now under President Trump disagrees with that as a principle and have ended those policies.
The American Civil Liberties Union reported U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement deported 3 U.S. citizen children. CBS reported more than 200 migrants were sent to a maximum security prison in El Salvador because Trump claimed they were terrorists and violent gang members, yet most have no apparent criminal convictions or charges. Corral notes President Trump's approval rating has dropped about 20 points to the upper 30s 100 days into his term. A key reason is his controversial immigration policy, particularly the unprecedented deportation of undocumented immigrants to a prison in El Salvador. He highlighted the lack of due process and concerns about the conditions and fate of detainees.
What's occurring is that these men are being, essentially just rounded up and then very quickly being deported there without any sort of legal process, right? Without any sort of adjudication from an immigration judge to say, yes, this person is worthy of such a punishment and therefore should be taken there, right? So I think there's very troubling sort of legal precedents that are being set here.
BBC reported the president issued pardons to 1,600 people convicted or charged in connection with the January 6, 2021 Capitol riot. The ABA Journal reported 9 major law firms, including Sackden and Kirkland and Ellis, pledged pro bono work on issues backed by Trump to avoid executive orders threatening lawyers' security clearances and their clients' government contracts. According to the United States Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs, a Reuters report said the Trump family is directly affiliated with World Liberty Financial and could personally profit as much as $400 million from WLF token sales. The Lowy Institute critiques Donald Trump's territorial ambitions, such as proposing U.S. control over the Panama Canal and attempting to buy Greenland. These moves, experts argue, risk damaging U.S. credibility, straining alliances, and undermining international cooperation. Science reported National Institutes of Health employees are dealing with the mandate to eliminate $2.6 billion in contracts, with many supporting staff scientists in NIH's labs and vaccine research center, as well as funding many clinical trials conducted at academic institutions, small business research awards, and influenza research centers under the Trump administration. Corral said Trump can't sustain his current path if he hopes for success. Presidents usually enjoy a honeymoon period, but Trump's early policies have hurt his approval ratings. If this continues, Republican leaders may need to push for a change in direction to protect their chances in the 2026 midterms.
That seems to be the only way out of this, or the only sort of response that could sort of lead to a sort of shift in policy, right? I think that the president's party and leaders in that party outside of the White House would need to organize and make the case essentially against him to shift course in some sort of meaningful way.
The midterm elections will take place November 2026. Trump will end his presidency January 20th, 2029. This is Victoria Gonzalez for Vaquero Radio. UTRGV will be getting rid of Blackboard and will implement Brightspace. Here is Celeste Cruz with the story.
It's going to allow us to kind of gain a better idea of what the student needs.
UTRGV has made the decision to change the Blackboard into Brightspace through a review process and reevaluation of the learning management system. The review went for a couple of years, and the implementation process was evaluated by key stakeholders. Instructional support specialist for the Center for Online Learning and Teaching Technology, Nicolás Valderas, said Brightspace will have better functions and will be easy to use for the platform.
The reason why they chose Brightspace was because of the functionality and the ease of use for the platform. It was a little bit more modern and can be used for a variety of devices and different types of technologies. It can actually be used through a variety of mobile devices as well as laptops and regular computers. So the scalability of that particular platform, allows us to interact with different types of tools in the actual system.
Valderas said the access to Blackboard will be terminated August 30th, depending on the summer course that will determine whether students will take their courses on Brightspace or Blackboard.
Some students will have courses in Blackboard, the original LMS, but it only depends on which semester you're attending. So if you're part of the summer module 1, you might be still taking those courses in Blackboard, but starting summer 1, the regular semester for 2025, they're all going to be on Brightspace. So we should anticipate to start using that a little bit more frequently.
Valdera said students and professors will have a form of interaction on the new platform.
And we can actually kind of tell or gauge how the student is doing in the class. We just got out of a training about this data analytics, and it actually not just tracks their progress, but it also gives some key insights to their performance.
Transitioning into Brightspace will not require much work from students, but for faculty, it will be more difficult.
There's a little bit more work for faculty just because there's some planning involved, just to migrate their older courses into Brightspace, especially if they're going to reuse that content. We have instructors who really use every single part of the Blackboard system, the original LMS system, and they use every moving part in their courses. So it really varies between instructors. So the migration process does take some time for us to move that content over and to structure their new classes.
To learn more about Brightspace, Valderas encourages students and faculty to do the training available in the training portal or visit utrgv.edu/brightspace and utrgv.edu/online. This is Celeste Cruz for Vaquero Radio.
As graduation season approaches, changes to this year's ceremony are sparking conversation among students across UTRGV. Valeria Tokunaga has the story.
I always visualized my graduation to be in Brownsville campus.
This spring, all UTRB graduation ceremonies will take place exclusively at Berg Ogden Arena in Edinburgh, a shift for previous years when separate ceremonies were held in both Edinburgh and Brownsville. Electrical engineering senior Ryan Bella said he understands the decision, but he hopes it's temporary.
I think it would be nice to consider holding separate ceremonies if possible. But I know it's something that it's really tough just because, there is less students here in the Brownsville area. And so hopefully maybe when, numbers grow, we're able to make those accommodations.
Other students, such as computer engineering senior Tristan Hernandez, said the announcement was sudden and caught him by surprise.
This was something completely unexpected, to be honest. I always visualized my graduation to be in Brownsville campus when suddenly for this year's was completely exclusive to Edinburgh, right? And this fell completely out of nowhere.
Although he said the change doesn't affect him in major way, he acknowledged that it could be more difficult for others.
More other people that could experience troubles traveling.
UTRGV is offering limited transportation from Brownsville and requires the students to RSVP.
Yeah, I feel like the university is providing some sense of transportation for this, and I feel like they're doing some effort for sure. Could come with some drawbacks from the people that not only attend by themselves, but also their families and need to transport a lot of their family members. People were even looking for extra tickets.
Even with the challenges, Hernandez believes the university is making an effort to support students during this important moment. He also commented on the wider implications of the venue change.
I feel like this move was pushed from the idea that the university is growing, which is in fact for sure growing, but I feel like this was something that it was out of the blue, right? Completely unexpected.
Additionally, Hernandez supports the idea of bringing graduation ceremonies back to both campuses, if possible.
I wouldn't see why not, honestly. If UTRUB is going to get bigger, it should be able to hold its people from their respective campuses for their ceremonies as well, not only classes. From what I've heard of is UTRGV is on their way to make equal offerings and treatment for both campuses for Edinburgh and Brownsville. So following that pattern, or if that's their intent to make them as equal in terms of opportunities and offerings, it should become back. If they keep growing in Brownsville, well, I wouldn't see why not in terms of coming back and doing at least somewhere in the future more graduation ceremonies in Brownsville.
For now, students are preparing for Memorial Graduation Weekend in Edinburgh, while still hoping out for more exclusive options in the future. This is Valeria Tokunaga for Vaquero Radio.
The American Society of Civil Engineers competed in Symposium and placed in many categories. Here is Celeste Cruz with the story.
And its mission is to create and foster the next generation of civil engineers.
The American Society of Civil Engineers competed at the ASCE Frontier Student Symposium Region 6 in Stephenville, where UTRGV students competed against other universities from Texas, New Mexico, Oklahoma, and Mexico. ASCE placed third in surveying, first in concrete bowling, and third in the Timber Strong competition. In Timber Strong, the team has to create a structure made out of wood. According to the upcoming president for the ASCE, Stephanie Moreno, Symposium is a great opportunity for civil engineering students to work on their technical skills and networking skills. Moreno said it was the first time the ASCE UTRGV students competed in Timber Strong.
This year we took third place in Timber Strong, which was our first time ever competing in it, so we were all really excited about that. It just goes to show how dedicated our students are here.
Treasurer for the ASCE, Daniela Lanis, said UTRGV is the only university from Symposium that competes in every competition.
So we're proud of that because we get to expand our knowledge in not only one but all of them.
She added networking and building friendships at Symposium helps them improve their work.
We get to network with all the way, our region goes to even Mexico, to New Mexico and Oklahoma. So you get to not only Texas, but people internationally from Mexico. And then also from Oklahoma, you get to network with them and see how their state has this different codes and how you get to learn from different states and how they have different kinds of internships and how they do it. And so you learn and you get experience by learning from them, basically.
Moreno said being part of the ASCE helped her technical skills and grow as a person.
I've learned that it's important to be a solution finder, because everybody can be a problem finder, but it's the students or the people that can find the solutions to the problem that really stand out. And then just from a personal perspective, it's really helped me come out of my shell, because I was a freshman, like I mentioned, that didn't know what I wanted to do, but it's really helped me find a career that I'm passionate about.
Students interested in joining ASCE reach out to Professor Gasser Ali at gasser.ali@utrgv.edu. This is Celeste Cruz for Vaquero Radio.
And McLean goes up and throws down a monster dunk. That fires up the UTRGV Fieldhouse.
Now time for Vaquero Sports. The UTRGV women's dance team is ready to showcase its skills. Leonardo Bajardo has the details.
The engaging performances of the UTRGV women's dance team shines its school spirit at athletic and collegiate events. Senior captains Gabriela Salinas, Joyce Cantu, and Vianney Silva lead the team forward, bringing their passion and knowledge of dance to inspire their teammates. Salinas said one of the challenges is the team's tight practice schedule.
Whenever we would work together, we only had a certain amount of time in the mornings. Since a lot of us have classes afterwards, having that short amount of time to really go over everything and getting everything done and cleaned, that was quite the challenge.
The women's dance team has showcased their talents at a variety of events, including UTRGV Boots and Barbecue during homecoming week, basketball games, and open football practices and scrimmages. Silva discussed the routines and choreography the team practices for.
We do go to a summer camp in Texas State University. So there we do learn from a bunch of choreographers that came from different dance backgrounds, college level as well as the NBA level of dancing pro style. So that's where we learn like our timer routines that you see at like volleyball games or basketball games, and now this upcoming year, football.
On March 29, the Vaqueros made history by representing UTRGV in the Division I category at the ADTS National Collegiate Championship for the first time. They secured first runner-up in both Team Jazz and the overall competition. Cantu said it felt like an honor to represent UTRGV at the ADTS National Collegiate Championship.
A lot of people probably didn't even know that the UTRGV had a dance team before because we haven't gone out to competitions, so people might not know of us or they might not know our talents. And going to compete and showing how much talent we actually have in the team and how diverse our dancers are, hopefully it gives other people the opportunity and wanting to try out for the dance team.
The UTRGV women's dance team will continue to enhance its skills for future athletic and collegiate events. This is Leonardo Bajardo for Vaquero Radio.
Newton drops straight back towards a crossing route. McCaffrey. Touchdown, that's big time.
Good morning, Vaqueros. Here's the sports schedule for this week. We are approaching the final games of the semester as the men's baseball team hits the road to compete against Baylor University Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. in Waco. Don't forget to bring your student ID to all UTRGV games for free admission and support our student athletes by showing up. This is Leonardo Guajardo for Vaquero Radio.
And now for this week's events calendar.
What's up, Vaqueros? Let's check out all the fun events going on this week. On Tuesday, head over to the Brownsville campus for the Breakfast Wrangler at the Student Union from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Enjoy a delicious breakfast, live music, games, and awesome prizes. Also on Tuesday in Edinburgh, join the Student Involvement for the World of Cultures event, located at the Quad from 12:30 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. Celebrate culture diversity, have some delicious snacks, and great company. And for you, Edinburgh, your Breakfast Wrangler is on Wednesday at the Student Union from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. And hey, make sure to study, Vaqueros. Finals are coming up. That is the final event calendar for this spring semester. Don't forget to bring your student ID to all UTRGV events. This is Ariana Gallatro for Vaquero Radio.
And now, for this week's campus weather report. Hello Vaqueros, here's the weather forecast for this week. Today we'll see partly cloudy skies with a high of 92 and a low of 74. Cloudy skies will carry out for the rest of the week with highs dropping to the 80s and lows around the 70s. Remember to dress accordingly for these weather conditions. This is Joseph Zambrano for Vaquero Radio.
That is the newscast for this week.
Remember to read our news articles every week on our website, utrgbradio.com.
Tune in to Vaquero Radio through our website or download the Radio Garden app to listen wherever you are and enjoy the best DJ shows around campus. Remember to check out our YouTube channel for the latest news from UTRGV and the Valley.
Our weekly newscast will also broadcast at 11 a.m. every Wednesday.
Join us next week, same time, same place.
Only on Vaquero Radio, the Valley student station.
Thanks for tuning in, Vaqueros. Be sure to saddle up at 11 a.m. every Monday and Wednesday for another newscast. And as always, V's up!